All right, we're gonna make this slab look awesome, this little baby tile. So you always, before you start to compress the surface, you wanna put it on a bat. It doesn't have to be a big bat, it's a perfect size bat. So we're gonna take care of the top. I like to compress with a damp sponge. And I first go across the surface in one direction. You could rotate this little bat and go across the other. You can also use the edge of a rib. So, and compress. Now you'll notice when you compress the surface, it's starting to expand a little bit. But you want to compress it evenly and rotate and be really mindful of the position of the rib or the sponge, right? So this is actually now grown a little bit. And I like to take care of the top. Let's say, for example, we have an air bubble. Do we have an air bubble in this one? If we had an air bubble, let's say we had an air bubble like that. What you want to do is you want to pop it and get rid of the air bubble. You might actually have to do that with your needle tool and score it, compress it out, and do that. So sometimes it's worthwhile just making a new one if there is an air bubble. This one does not have an air bubble. Now that we have this compressed, what I like to do next is you could take something, this is a fettling knife, it has a really nice long edge. You could use this to sort of cut the edge of the surface, and I don't like having things straight up and down, so you want to be sure you're paying attention to the angle. So I'm going to come here and angle it and chop down, and I'm just going to compress and drag across. Be sure your finger's not in the way. This also isn't sharp like a knife, so it won't hurt. But you can see there's a little sliver of it off. So for people that like hard, straight edges, you could do it that way, and that looks pretty good. You can also do it too where you take the sponge. Let's say you want more of a soft edge. You could take your sponge and kind of curve it like this around the edge. And you could see that I come on the edge, I'm doing a strong, like a smooth stroke, and rotate. And you always want to do this evenly. If you do too much on the one side, and you come across, don't worry about it being perfect. Might add a little bit, so there's a little bit more water on this side of the sponge. So I like to do this a couple, maybe two on each side, just to kind of get it smooth. And then you'll see that the corners are distorting a little bit. Don't worry about that. We're going to take care of that. And there's a couple ways we can take care of it. All right, so now these edges are looking much more refined. One way to take care of it is by taking your fingers and shaping it. And we're compressing it. And what I'll have to do is I can also compress this corner. I can have this more rounded. You can also use this to where that extra clay, we could just simply cut it off with the edge of our fettling knife, because it is extra clay. It's clay that has been compressed. So now I'm going to try to match the angle of this side. So now I removed little bits of extra clay. I can now come back with my sponge because I want a smoothed edge. And I'm just barely touching. I can also use my finger to round a little bit as well. Take your time to make it look good, because once it's leather hard, you can't really do this. Here I can see it's slightly edged. I don't necessarily want to cut it for this one. I could just simply press the fettling knife along the surface, and you can see I could start to correct this edge and make it more straight. I did mess this up a little bit, so I have to do that, so I didn't pay attention to the back of the tool. But now it's a little bit straighter along this top here. I can compress this corner and compress the clay down. So just use this opportunity to just really look closely and kind of address the thing. I could probably cut this little piece off here. So if you like really straight edges, this other part doesn't need to be cut. I can use this to sort of smooth this edge out and just sort of rub it. I'm just compressing. That looks pretty good. Come across. So those are ways to smooth the edges. You want to do this when it's on a bat. because it will get stuck on the table if you do that. And you won't, then all that hard work will just kind of go to waste. And then we'll paint our slip.